So let's go over another debate on which is better, the pros and cons, all that kind of stuff of these two pistols. First of all, these both do not run the same cartridge. This is a Glock 23, which is 40 Smith & Wesson. We're not talking power here. We're talking options, we're talking features, we're talking ergonomics, we're talking aftermarket support, materials, all that kind of stuff. So let's start off with the Glock. What's good about the Glock? Glock has huge aftermarket support. You can get anything for this pistol. The operation is dead simple. There's no like sort of actuated safety or anything like it's just literally the trigger press, right? And the trigger, for that matter, is incredible. It feels super solid, very lightweight. A lot of people don't like the grip angle. The grip angle is a bit more extreme, and then a lot of people don't like this. This is the sort of infamous Glock hump. I personally like it. It fits in my hand well. This is referred to as the AK of the pistol world. I've like literally just pouring dirt into this gun. Open chamber, dirt in the magazines, and I did it with an aftermarket magazine too. It wasn't even the stock one, which it would have run better with a stock magazine and also the stock barrel. So watch that video. I'll put the link in the description. In my opinion, the trigger is better, the weight is better, the magazines are better, aftermarket support is better. Everything is so streamlined. Like there's less snag. If I were to put my hand close to that locking area on the Beretta, I would be a little bit worried. I would be worried that I was going to pinch my hand. Make this clear here. This is an open barrel right here. My girlfriend found out the hard way. This is actually her pistol. But my girlfriend found out the hard way that can bite you pretty bad. Not only that, but the safety, which is also a decocker. It's in a weird spot. It's kind of out of the way, but it's also extremely in the way when you charge the weapon. A lot of people will say, well, it gives you something more to grab onto in cold weather or whatever, but there's snag points. I mean, look how much that sticks away from the frame. If this was my pistol, I would try to think of a way or find an aftermarket solution to delete this safety decocker thing, because actually without this mechanism here, the hammer can't actually reach the firing pin. If you look inside here, that's like an extension to make it to where the hammer can reach the firing pin. So it's cool, and you could just do that all day and stuff and not have a worry about it, because mechanically it's impossible for it to fire. Now the gun does feel amazing in the hand. It feels like it's actually built for a human hand. Different chamberings. The Beretta has less options. Glock, you got 380, 9mm, 357 SIG, 40 Smith & Wesson, 45 ACP, 45 Gap. If you get the 40, there are aftermarket companies, Lone Wolf specifically, that make conversion barrels for this, right? I have a 9mm barrel for this, and I have had to change literally nothing in the firearm. I don't have to change the extractor, the ejector, firing pin. You can even use the same 40 Smith & Wesson magazines and it'll run fine. I haven't had any malfunctions. I do have 9mm magazines as well, but if you want to be cheap and just have like 9mm as a training or cheap plinking ammunition, this is all you need. Just a conversion barrel. You have two guns in one. Tell me that isn't cool. For $100 you got a new gun. You have the same gun for familiarity reasons, like when you're training. That's amazing. To be able to train with a cheaper cartridge and then also a higher velocity, flatter shooting cartridge, the 357 SIG. If you need to check how many rounds you have, it's right there. It's even numbered for you. If I were using brass, you could see that would pop through better like than the silver does. And also notice, I don't have to break my grip at all to release the magazine. Some people will say like, oh, well, that means you're going to accidentally release the magazine. No, I've never accidentally released the magazine. I'm pressing it right now, but it's not popping out. You have to intentionally push it all the way. The texture, it's not stippling. Stippling is when it's like recessed into the frame, and texture is when it's like popping out. So a lot of people get that confused, but this is stippling. See how I made small depressions in the plastic? You get a good grip on this, and it's not so grippy that like it hurts your hands or anything. It's not like digging into your hands kind of grippiness. It's like hold on to the gun kind of grippiness. You got a pick rail. This is not standard, 1913 slotted. It's a proprietary Glock slot. Most things will kind of just fit on there. With this, they do make versions, I believe, that do have the Picatinny rails, but they're not standard. Let's go over a big thing here. Maintenance. Bet you heard that a Glock has some of the easiest maintenance routines in the world in terms of taking it apart and cleaning it. And you would be right. So all you have to do, you check your chamber, One thing people don't like about disassembling this gun is you have to pull the trigger. But if you're not an idiot and you know how to use your eyes and your fingers, you know, if you have to, do a physical check. Like if you're completely blind, you can do a check. I mean, I wouldn't advise you have a firearm if you're completely blind, but if you're visually impaired, you can literally do a chamber check with your finger, right? So it's clear. You pull the trigger, wrap your hand around it like a C shape. Pull it back a little bit just to relieve some of the tension on the takedown pins here. They're on both sides. It's just one single like rod that goes across, but you need to pull them down both at the same time. And once you get to this point, you just push your slide forward, take it off. That's your lower, and here's your upper, right? Or your slide. That's your recoil spring. It's captured, nothing to fall off. You can take it apart, but it's a pain in the ass. But you don't ever need to, unless you need to replace it. The barrel, simple. You know, you just swab out your barrel or whatever, do nothing with that, and then just, you know, wipe off some carbon here or there, and you're good to go. Further disassembly, here's the striker, otherwise known as a firing pin. You can just get anything that'll fit in there. There's this little plastic sleeve. You just go in there, push down on it, and then this little back plate slides off, right? So this is how to do it. And you can do it with anything. You can do it with like a pen, just anything, a tip of a bullet. That comes off. The firing pin and entire assembly comes out. Here's your little retainer thing. This is what puts pressure on the extractor here. Now your extractor comes out, and then here's your firing pin block or whatever. Unless you pull the trigger, it's impossible for that firing pin to hit that primer. So a lot of people get that confused, like this is like an unsafe gun, like if you drop it or something, it's going to blow up in your hand. That's not true. And this little plastic sleeve, you can get that out, but you don't need to. And that's fully disassembled unless you're talking about taking your sights off. Slide lock. It's not really a slide release, but it's a slide lock. But a lot of people use it as that. Push forward and down. And see that it pops out like that? And then you can literally just pop it through. Pop the pin out. Take the other one out. Okay, so you can find something else to push that out with, but you can push it out with anything. You don't need a hammer. Pop this little pin out. It goes either way. Or takedown lever comes out just by pushing that down and then pushing out on it. I'm not going to take that out because you know, I don't want to. And you get the point. Like that's that. And this entire assembly right here lifts out. That's your trigger bar, linkage bar, and all the little inner workings and stuff like that. To take this off, you just slide it out. One little spring hole in there, you just remove the spring off there. And then this thing right here just slides out from this side. You just push that like that, and then that'll come off. And then same thing with the extractor. You just push in the back of it right there, where that little horizontal thing is. And that's it. Now the takedown is simple. If you don't have like a lot of hand strength, you can lock it back, push this little button on the right side here, so this can slide down. Now you hold the slide and release the slide lock, and then let it go forward. This little thing will shoot you in the eye if you let it. A lot of spring tension, but this is not captured. It's just two little separate pieces of the guide rod and the spring itself. The barrel has to be unlocked. You push this little button here, and then the barrel is unlocked, and then you can take that out. And you know, this is your basic disassembly right here. Like, so you'd clean your barrel, you'd clean your slide or whatever, and that's fine. There's nothing complicated about that. But if you want to do anything else, it's not easy to do in a hurry. I do like that there's like this little indentation here, because I like to be able to press check, right? And with this, it's pretty slick up on front here. I mean, you can just pop it open, the backhand or the front like that. This has a weaker recoil spring, so it's a little bit easier to pull back, but it also is more uncomfortable to pull back, because naturally where your hand lies to make the gun ready, you're literally like digging into your thumb and your forefinger here. And if you let it go a little bit and it hits your fingers, it's really uncomfortable. Or if you do it like this, it's still uncomfortable. There's no real comfortable way to load this gun. In terms of shooting these guns, this gun feels like a Cadillac. The sights are nice on this gun, but it kind of points weird. And that's probably because I'm used to kind of cocking my wrist forward like this with a Glock because of the different grip angle. I don't think I've ever experienced a malfunction with this without me trying to make it malfunction. This gun has experienced many malfunctions with just the few hundred rounds it's seen since it's been in this household. And that's probably due to the tighter tolerances. This starts getting gritty and like all carboned up and stuff. Things slow down. Not as much room for the carbon to build up and still have the parts move freely in this pistol. And some people might consider that a plus because it feels higher quality, and it does. This gun feels like it's more expensive than this. The magazine release is in a really weird spot. Like it's in an average spot. You know, if this is your grip, you'd have to kind of roll your hand over to be able to access the spring. With the Gen 4s, you can change the back strap here. That's what these little grooves are for. You can change it to make it fill your hand more, which, you know, this is plenty for me. I don't have huge hands. But if you have huge, long hands or whatever, you can actually get grip extensions, and then also you can get beaver tail extensions. This one already has like a huge beaver tail. So, you know, you're not getting anywhere near that slide, really. But that brings me to my next thing, is bore axis. When you have this Glock here, the barrel is right here. So your hand is much more in line with the barrel, or your wrist. It's much more in line with it, because like your hand is able to go higher on the pistol grip itself to get closer to the bore. So which means there's more straight back recoil rather than muzzle flip, right? With this gun, look how high the slide is above my hand. The barrel's way up here. Look where my hand is in relation to the barrel. Here's the very top of my hand, right? Look how far the barrel is up from there. That's at least like 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches, right? With this, so the top of my hand, look how much closer this is to the barrel. From the center of the barrel, it's about 1 inch. So you're looking at more muzzle flip, less recoil overall. I haven't shot this gun in a while, but I remember this gun being extremely soft shooting. It's a big, huge, heavy gun, especially for a 9mm. The magazines, these are California magazines, limited to 10, and you can see that they have deep grooves in this magazine to make it to where you can't stuff anything else in here but 10 rounds. Normally be a 15-round magazine. If this was the Glock 17, the 9mm full-size pistol, roughly the same size as this in terms of the pistol grip length, you'd be looking at 17 rounds. That's why it's called the Glock 17 versus 15. That's something to consider. You know, if you want like a full-size duty pistol, you know, if you're in the military or a police officer, Beretta it's a good choice. It's not a bad pistol. You know, it's got a great track record. You know, it's been our military's sidearm for a long time. And of course, they have a lot of issues with it, but overall, it's been a good pistol. You know, these are totally different technologies. I mean, for instance, this is a hammer fire pistol, and this is a striker fired. The mechanism is, you know, internal. So, you know, I can't cock the gun without literally pulling the slide back, right? To many people, that's not a huge issue. But let's say you want to carry this pistol. So check that out. There is one in there, right? So it's closed on there. It's good to go. If I want to carry this with one in the chamber, a lot of people like this gun better because of this reason, right? Doesn't matter if there's a round in there. There's no way that's going off until I put the safety on, and then I'm going to take the round out now, but pretend there's a round in there, right? And now I can pull the trigger. This is a double action and a single action pistol. Single action means I pull the hammer back, you barely feel any resistance on the trigger, right? Double action's when you have a full trigger pull, watch the hammer, and at the very end of it, the hammer will release. So if you want to carry this gun with a safety off, hammer forward, with one in the chamber, you can do that relatively safely. Kind of like a revolver. You know, a revolver doesn't necessarily have a safety. You know, the safety is the trigger being such a long and deliberate pull. And then once you fire that first round, pretend that, you know, this is me firing. Bam, holding back the trigger, the gun cycles, right? Trigger resets right there. With this, you have, I'm already used to that, you have one trigger pull, right? Right there. Then the rest of them are exactly the same. Like all the trigger pulls are the same, except for the fact that you don't have to let the trigger travel all the way forward. You can just kind of ride the reset. You know, like as soon as it resets, you can pull the trigger again, pull the trigger again. You don't have to kind of train for two different kind of trigger pulls. With this one, you have to kind of figure out where the break is. You know, so it's just like a little bit extra training. They both have a slot for a lanyard. People put like plugs in here and, you know, different attachments and stuff. That's an attach point right there, and then there's an attach point right here. In terms of loading the magazines, the Beretta is kind of harsh. Not only is it cold in the winter and hot in the summer, the feed lips right here are super sharp. These feed lips have bent to make it to where this gun doesn't cycle properly. The 9mm case, being that it has a taper to it, kind of makes it difficult to load like this to begin with. But if your finger slips off, these feed lips can like cut your finger. I've had that happen before. With this, it's kind of like enclosed in plastic, so it's much more tolerable when you're loading it in different weather, hot or cold. It's a little bit more friendly, and it's a little bit more forgiving if you slip and hit the magazine with your finger, because there's like extra surface area to make it to where like it's not like a lot of pressure on one point of your hand to make it to where it'll cut it, you know. Length of barrel doesn't really matter that much, especially as much as people think it does. It gives you a little bit of extra velocity. You know, different quality barrels will produce better results. Different materials used, different rifling patterns. Glock uses a polygonal or a polygonal style rifling, and then this is, I believe this is traditional. But you know, like you can have different twist rates, you can have different types of rifling, you can have a different amount of grooves. But extra velocity from a longer barrel does allow the bullet to stay supersonic longer. A lot of what makes a bullet or a gun or a rifle or a cartridge inaccurate is the point when the bullet actually goes from supersonic to subsonic. After a certain distance traveled, it loses a lot of its energy, a lot of its speed, and then it kind of hits its own wave and destabilizes the bullet. But I wanted to clear that up because a lot of people don't understand why a longer barrel necessarily means it has the potential to be more accurate, because that's not always true. A shorter barrel can be more accurate than a longer barrel, just depending on thickness and vibration, barrel harmonics, and a bunch of stuff. Read up on it. It'll blow your mind how much you actually don't know about what you think you know about. Let's say you have a round in the chamber, right? And let's say something is preventing the slide from going all the way forward. In order to hit the slide to beat it into battery, you have to literally avoid the hammer. So I have to kind of come over the top and kind of just smack it right there, right? That doesn't leave you a whole lot of room for error. You have to be pretty precise in your movement, and you also don't want to cut your wrist up if you have to hit it hard. With this gun, bam! Smack the back of it as hard as you want. There's nothing in the way there. It's not going to damage anything. It's not going to damage your hand. It's into battery, it gets going again, you're good to go. You know, that's something to be said for the Glock in terms of its design. The Striker Fire design. Anyway, have a good day. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in a future video.